Thank you all for joining us. This is the second part of the Success with Social Media series that we have. The first one went really well, and due to the feedback that we got, we decided to have another series on it.
Well, this is why I'm over here. I started a business last year in August, and it started off. It was meaning I started it off with the name of the Recruitment Experts, which it is. And what happened was this: is that it's a totally unique business. First of all, let me start by telling you that it's very unique in the sense that you have different companies like Rosie, Bright Spire, etc., who are catering to the employer side. So they look for jobs, they look for employees for employers. What the Recruitment Experts does, it works with employees and it tries to find work for them, okay? And what we did is that we started off, and in December of last year, we had it was just about 25 clients. And honestly speaking, we moved on to social media somewhere in Jan. And that's when things kicked off. As of today, thanks to social media, we have over 300 clients. Just in a span of about 3-4 months. So, before we go any further, I just want to tell you one thing. Numbers is not everything. And I, for one, meaning my business for one, cannot compete with the panel people over here with their likes, the number of likes that they have on Facebook, or the number of followers that they have on Twitter. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because I just want to show you something. So this is just to show those people who are going into businesses, who's a new startup, that even with a small number of likes, your reach at the end of the day can be pretty big. This was somewhere in April. Actually, as I mentioned before, we started in January using social media. And this is the insights from Facebook. We actually took somewhere around in April, about 5,700 odd people had access to our pages. Although there's a plummet, but even that plummet, at the end of the day, that's about 600 odd people who have access to our site. Okay, so there's visibility, whatever we're putting up, they can see it.
So I'm just gonna take you on how we use the social media. So, it's all good and well that we use Facebook, but there are different ways that we use the Facebook page. So if you could just go on the next slide. We show that we have 114,000 likes till today. Then secondly, there's a cause. So we have different tabs under the Facebook page. So the second tab under the Facebook page is the cause. When you go on the cause, a video sort of pops up. There's a video which introduces the campaign of ILMPOSSIBLE. After that video, it asks you to become an ILM ambassador. And that's a button that you click, which takes you to an oath. You take an oath to become an ILM ambassador, to become a volunteer, to spread awareness about this right to education that I'm sure not even a lot of people in this room would know about, because that's something that's just not discussed. So under the 18th Amendment, there's this clause, 25A, which states that every citizen of Pakistan has a free and compulsory right to education, and that the government will provide it. The thing is, not a lot of people in Pakistan know about this right. So there you go. We have a huge number of people or volunteers who then take the oath to become our volunteers. After the tab of cause, then we have another tab which is action. So here when you go, we have different tasks updates. We have tasks such as, go out on the street and talk to random people on the street about this right to education. And this is how we engage our Facebook users. So it's not just important to have a page and have people like it, but you need to engage them. And that's how we do it. That's one way we do it. We have different tasks up there. Next, please. Then, for example, we also have useful resources on our Facebook page. We thought about having a website for this campaign, but then we decided to stick with the Facebook page because a lot of people wouldn't go, a lot of traffic wouldn't transfer to the website. So we have useful resources on the page. So there's a toolkit that anyone can download, and it explains the entire process of how to go about the campaign. First you target this audience, and then you give them a presentation. This is how you talk to them, and the entire toolkit provides the entire explanation. Then we have testimonials of our volunteers. We have a presentation that any volunteer can use if they, for example, want to present ILMPOSSIBLE in the university, or to their teachers, or to civil society organizations. Everything's available on our page. Next, please. Another tip, or another sort of recommendation that we have is to engage and talk to the people. It's important to have regular updates and posts on the page, but then you need to talk to them, sort of engage them in a discussion. So for example, what we usually do is we post articles, we post videos, we post polls, we have competitions through which a lot of people give us feedback, and that's how they're engaged.
So social media for business is it's a great way for businesses to engage with their audiences. It's a great way for you to find out who is interested in your product, why they like your product, and what you can do to keep them liking your product. More importantly, how you can get them to become evangelists for your business or your product and extend it to their own communities, families, friends, and so on and so forth. I mean, the thing is that because it's a real-time environment, a lot of what you're doing is going to be visible to a lot of people at the same time. Just because they're not liking your posts or they're not commenting on your posts doesn't mean they're not seeing the post and they're not talking about your post. It's hard to measure it beyond anything that you control as a Facebook page or a Twitter account that you have for your company. So a lot of this stuff you need to keep in perspective as well. Communities are growing very quickly, especially with new products and tools coming out every year. You have to keep in mind that the 7 billion population that we have on Earth is going to be exposed to this at some point or the other as telecommunications and internet becomes more available to people. Pakistan is slightly behind in that respect, but we're catching up. And Y-Tribe is making its sincere effort to make sure that more people get online. So now I'm going to talk about how we do digital communications at Y-Tribe. We have presence on a lot of different communities. We have Foursquare, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Facebook and Twitter would be our most prominent and primary channels that we use to talk to people. But each channel has its own mechanism. So you have to keep in mind that you can't use the same mediums for the same kind of content. Each has to have its own kind of content. Obviously, video is going to differentiate from text. That's not what I mean. What I'm talking about is don't sort of link all your social accounts together so that you post on one place and it's spreading across on the others. You have different audiences on different mediums because they're there to be engaged for different kinds of information or content.
Why use social media? I think that people before me were very convincing. And they've told you all about it already. And if these statistics don't speak for themselves, then I'll tell you why we use social media. Nonprofits use social media because it's low cost. Normally, we can't afford to buy media space. It's very expensive. Buying a hoarding or buying newspaper space or even getting on the radio sometimes is a bit tough. So for us, social media it's kind of there. It's free. You've got a internet connection. You've got a computer. Just hook the two of them up together and get an account, right? So it's really easy and it's available. So it's low cost, right? And instantly it allows you to access a wide range of audience right there on social media. All your channels, your platforms allow you to communicate with so many people. Just with that, setting up yourself on social media. You have a wide range of audience there, so it's low cost. You've got a huge, diverse audience that you can speak to. You can get instant feedback using social media. At some point of time, you probably have studied the communication process with a sender, receiver, feedback. So social media allows you that process of instant feedback. Zohare I liked his presentation. He went into, how they engage and talk with you and communicate with you. That's instant feedback. And yeah, that's some of the reasons why we use social media. How we use social media? Well, we're on Twitter, Flickr, YouTube, and Facebook. So just, we're campaigning, we're telling people, we're trying to reach more people, so help us, come on board. New campaign to stop rape and gender conflict in different locations, hashtagging. Our Twitter profile has 343,000 followers. We're tweeting in English, French, and Spanish. Okay, so we have a Flickr page with over 1 million views, and the statistics are in front of you. So if that is not success, then I don't know what is. Okay, so we have our main website, and then we have a blog site. I really like Bryce's little sales funnel, which he showed you earlier. It says, first you have the layer of social media, then you have your website, then you have your blog site, and then at the bottom there was a little $sign. For us, that $sign represents a donation. It's not a sale, but it's converting that, that potential supporter, campaigner, volunteer, getting that person to help us help more people.
I just wanted to give you an example of what kind of content you can find, also tell you how diverse our mission is and how many different kind of things we're working on, from trade investment, education, cultural links, etc. This is a campaign that we ran very recently called Celebrating Connections. It's just ended. It was targeted specifically at young people, so obviously we were using social media. But it was complemented by the traditional media as well. So the High Commissioner was appearing on TV. Our spokesperson who's sitting here, he was going on radio shows. A web TV showed a lot of content from our website. And the great thing about it was done with the minimal budget, because it was mostly a social media campaign. So today I thought that rather than giving you a wider overview of how we use social media, I could just share very quickly some examples of things that worked for us and might offer some useful insight for you as well. So we heard and we got the feedback that people thought that the British High Commission was not very accessible. So basically we convinced our High Commissioner to do a monthly video blog. I don't know how many of you have come across it. But basically we use the Twitter hashtag Ask the High Commissioner. We ask people to post questions through Facebook, through email, and it has worked for us. At the end of the month, the High Commissioner tries and answers as many questions as he can. And they can be very hard-hitting on foreign policy, on visas, but they can also be about education and the other stuff that the British High Commission is doing. So that's something that's worked for us, and something that the other organizations can do as well. Always look for hooks for engagement. What we do is we try and figure out what's happening around us. We listen to people on social media. Is there something relevant that we can engage them on? Can we enter a conversation? We use high-profile events and ministerial visits, for instance, to increase our engagement. For instance, when William Hague, when he became the Foreign Secretary of Britain and he came on his first visit to Pakistan, we thought of what we can do with him. And so we asked him to do a Twitter question and answer session with Pakistanis, and that really worked for us. A lot of senior journalists, a lot of students sent in questions using the hashtag AskTheFS. And that was the first time that the Foreign Office had done something like that, because they always think that it's slightly risky, but it was great, generated a lot of traffic for us. So that's something that's been applied around the Foreign Office after Pakistan did it for the first time. When you have any high-profile events, live tweet from the events. If Saad is here, he can see that he was tweeting from a recent event. We were celebrating 100 days to go. Saad was there. He was tweeting, and that was great if other people can tweet for you. What we find very useful is that we schedule tweets. We use Hootsuite. That's the dashboard we use for Twitter. And it's very handy if you have a set program for an event, if you can schedule your tweets in advance, and then you can, because you're too busy running around, but what you can do is that you can send tweet pics, send a lot of visuals. If people aren't interested in your press releases or articles, they might find a photograph very interesting and they might click the link. And follow up timely after the event, make sure the articles are there, make sure the photos are there if you have a Flickr account. Ever since we've started doing this more proactively, we've seen that when newspapers publish something about our events, they're using our photographs. So that's very good for us. That means that the journalists, for instance, think that this is a useful resource for them, and they're coming to our website and our Flickr account.
All right, I can't compete with an iPad, I'm sorry. This is the latest conference I've ever presented at, and I've been hiking since about 8 o'clock this morning. So if I start to wobble, please catch me. My name is Tim Receveur. I'm at the U.S. Embassy. I was brought here about 6 months ago to coordinate social media at the embassy with all the consulates in Karachi, Lahore, Peshawar. Get the numbers up, get engagement up, come up with a social media strategy. And I just want to go through just a real quick presentation, some of the things we've done, some of the best practices and some of the success that we've seen so far. Another thing that's kind of interesting is I've seen a lot of you online. I've talked to you a lot online, Rehan. I've talked to Zohare last week. Great conversations, and this is the first time I've met you in person, but it's kind of interesting the way that social media works like that. I took the questions that I got about, why do we choose social media as a marketing publicity tool? And, the biggest thing around the world is traditional media is in decline. So we see television breaking up. We see newspapers declining, books, anything you see, like traditional media is kind of collapsing on itself. 24 of the 25 largest newspapers in the world are experiencing record declines in circulation. The only one that we've seen with any kind of increase in circulation is the Wall Street Journal. All the rest of them are kind of falling apart. This doesn't mean, though, that information is going away whatsoever. We've seen digital information over the last 5 years increase tenfold. That's 2011. 2012, it's even higher. So we see mobile devices even making this faster. We see social media sites being kind of at the center of this. And we also see, I apologize for the nudity, but we see that the population of the world is very, very young. In Pakistan, it's 35% of the country is 14 years or younger. So kids are coming up with mobile devices. They're coming up with social media sites, and these are really something that they just kind of are born with. Digital natives, they call them. And this is only going to become more prevalent in the next few years. We had a hike today with Omar Manzoor from Mobile Link, and we were talking about the 3G and kind of when that's going to take place. He's saying end of the year. In a couple years, the mobile devices will be supporting the social media sites, and you'll see these things really take off in a massive new way. What do we want to achieve through social media? And there's a lot of things we want to achieve. It's the same as what Pepsi wants to achieve, Hardee's wants to achieve. They want to get advocates for their brand, so they want people to say, this is a really great brand. For us, we want people that have been to the United States, that have had one of the programs impact their life. We want them to tell us or tell the audience how it impacted their life. Trends Map is another one it's really cool. This is one that it pulls in all of the tweets that are out there by city, so you can look at what's trending in Islamabad, what's trending in Karachi or Lahore, and just kind of interesting. It's kind of a Google Maps visual that you can get with that. So with that, I'll end. If you got any questions, please ask me later. You email me. Always available, and you can message the embassy Facebook site. I'm on there 24/7, so get that as well. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.